Open by Accident. We are back again. It's Nick.
And Matt.
How are we, Matt?
You know, we were listening to the intro and I started staring at the TV that my son mainly games on and looked down below it and seen that there was the digital download code that came with his copy of Persona 5 Tactics.
Okay.
You know, for whatever skin or extra content that comes
Right.
with it. And it's like, well, no wonder nobody's games are complete, because why is the code just sitting out and not in the case?
Yep.
I understand he redeemed it, that's great, and it's now useless, but to somebody that's a weirdo like me, that
Well,
game,
to be fair, we're lucky it's still sitting there and not in the trash can. I mean,
well, that would require him to get up
that's true.
and put it
But
in
most
the
people,
trash.
what I'm saying is most people just throw it away. It's used, it's done, it's just a piece of paper, so.
Yeah. So, I don't know, little things in life that irritate me, and I just seen that, and I'm like, no wonder I like looking for this piece of paper for this game, and this booklet for this game, is because people take them out of the case and then just don't put them back.
Right.
So,
Well, other than that, what you been up to this past week?
well, like last year at this time, exactly 1 year to the day,
Yeah.
as of the recording of this, February 15th, we uploaded our first episode of Open by Accident, and we kicked off the episode talking about the Super Bowl. And
And we just had the Super Bowl.
we just had the Super Bowl again, and it was like rinse and repeat, because the Kansas City Chiefs won the Super Bowl again.
Yep.
I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, I watch one football game a year. I watched the Super Bowl, and it was a bad game. It was a competitive game, but in my opinion, both teams kind of played like poop.
Okay.
I
yeah,
mean,
I don't watch it, so.
When you're at the Super Bowl, I don't think fumbles should be allowed. And there are multiple fumbles. But
it's part of the game, so.
in my opinion, the game came down to one play, wherever you want to pin it, whether it was the blocked field goal attempt that saved Kansas City and sent the game into overtime after they, tied it back up in the fourth quarter, or, Kansas City getting the personal foul for slapping the other guy in the helmet, and then giving the 49ers a first down and then a touchdown shortly thereafter. I mean, there's so many, you can pinpoint everything to one play as to why the game went into overtime. And I kind of wanted to touch base on this a little bit because somebody screwed up in the 49ers organization.
Okay.
In a press conference after the game, Nick didn't watch the football game.
No.
I don't even know if he knows what happened.
Nope, never do.
Okay, so the game went into overtime. Overtime rules are not as simplistic in the NFL as they are, like, say, the NBA. In the NBA, if it goes to an overtime, they put 5 minutes on the clock. Whoever scores the most points in that 5 minutes wins the game. If it's still tied after 5 minutes, guess what? Double overtime, and they do it again.
Okay.
That
makes sense.
Pretty simple. In the NFL, I guess it changes pretty regularly. So in this particular season, in the regular season, if the game goes to overtime, whoever scores first wins the game. So there's a possibility the opposing team doesn't get a chance to even score. So whoever wins the coin flip or whatever, however they determine who gets the ball first.
So it's sudden death with a coin flip to determine
during
who has
the
the
regular
ball.
season. Now in the postseason, each team has an opportunity to score. Here's where there was a big mistake in the 49ers organization. They did not realize that the Kansas City Chiefs would have an opportunity to score after they had kicked a field goal. Because this is postseason.
So they thought it was sudden death.
So they thought it was sudden death. They kicked a field goal, scored their 3 points. They thought they were winning the game, and then, oh no, Kansas City gets an opportunity. Kansas City scores a touchdown, wins the Super Bowl. Because they each had an opportunity to score. It just so happened Kansas City scored more points than them, so they ended the game. Whereas
it's a rookie move.
49ers possibly would have tried pushing for that first down or the touchdown on the fourth down that they were on instead of kicking a field goal.
I'd agree with you that that's something that higher-ups fucked up. And
I think somebody needs to get fired.
Yeah, that's a rookie-ass mistake.
Yes. I understand it was a new rule for this season, but
all it takes is asking around and paying attention.
These are professional football teams.
Yeah.
Somebody knew about the rule, and it was not relayed down to the players.
Right.
It's not the players' fault for them, the coaching staff to decide we're kicking. But there again, if all they would have had to do is just stop the Kansas City Chiefs in 4 downs and then game over, they would have won by the field goal.
Yeah, right. But they didn't realize that, I guess.
But when you hear the Kansas City side of things, they knew the new rules in place. They already had a game plan. Their plan was that if the 49ers had scored an actual touchdown, that they would have went for the 2-point conversion as opposed to trying to tie the game back up, because then it would have been, as soon as they score a touchdown or kick a field goal, then it's game over because each team had an opportunity to score.
Right.
I think the rules for overtime in the NFL are total crap. It just needs to be a time limit. Maybe not 15 minutes because, gee whiz, but like maybe a 10-minute overtime.
Yeah.
So
I agree with that. They try to complicate things to,
sure,
add a bunch of rules, so that if as soon as one rule is broken on one half, then
yeah,
they know who gets the points. But I don't know.
Do you have any thoughts on yesterday's parade?
Fucking hell, man. People suck, dude.
Yeah, over 1 million people downtown, and somebody decides to open fire.
I'm glad.
I guess there was numerous kids involved.
I don't know. All I saw was several people were shot, and that they had the 2 armed suspects.
3 suspects.
Detained. Really?
3 suspects, 21 injured, and 1 dead.
Fuck.
Over a freaking sporty ball game.
Dude.
Come on, people.
This country sucks, man.
Yes.
Fucking hell, dude.
I mean, I would have been apprehensive if I was a major fan to even go, just because of the sheer amount of people. And
I
I'm
know.
like, something's going to happen. I mean, I wouldn't expect something to that severity, but I knew something was going to happen. You can't put that many people into a confined space and expect it not to turn into chaos at some point.
It's a different world we live in, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a fucking gun and everybody's got a fucking temper, it seems like.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, and, going back to how we talked about COVID and the lockdown last episode,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that has had an impact on us where we don't know how to socialize. It has set us back decades. In this social experience that we call humans.
There was a lot of people that had a rough time socializing before COVID. So leave them in their house for a year or 2, Dude, good luck.
Some are still confined to their homes
exactly.
because their jobs decided, oh yeah, we can have you work remotely, and now they don't go outside. I mean, I don't know.
It's a wonderful country we live in.
I guess given the line of work I'm in and, the shift I work, I tend to look forward to my social interactions because I don't get a ton of them.
Right.
So, it's like, oh, okay, Nick's coming over, we're going to do the podcast, or I'm going out to eat with some friends, or, I've got friends coming over, we're going to watch some wrestling together. It's like those things are more, even just hanging out with the family are more enticing now because you just don't do it as often.
Yep.
And
you don't know what'll come up that won't let you do it
right.
next time. So.
Right. So, but yeah, on a more positive note, like I mentioned, To the Day, Open by Accident has been on the air for 1 year.
Yeah, so let's not talk about the shootings. Let's talk about...
Yeah.
Yay, congratulations.
Yeah, we made it. We made it a year.
We did.
And we have not evolved into video like we want to. And,
we talked about that 2 episodes ago.
But I had another thought, and I guess there's literally hundreds of millions of hours of content uploaded every day to YouTube, and it's like, how are you supposed to compete with that?
I mean, it's all about what people type in, dude.
I know. I don't know.
I don't know how the algorithm works for the homepage and stuff, so I don't even, I don't plan on being on that. but if people like what they hear, then hopefully they'll look us up. So,
but I don't know. It made me have that thought of I know we don't have a broad audience, huge audience, but we have an audience, and it's like, how are these, other people justifying, uploading episodes of whatever they're doing every day or, weekly or whatever it is, and then not getting any views, or, the content that they're putting out there is very questionable, and it's like, why are you even doing this in the first place,
dude?
But especially when there's so much competition out there.
Well, we will never understand the human mind.
No.
People are weird
No.
as fuck.
Yeah, we're part of that.
Yeah.
We are part of that.
So.
But yeah, I think this podcast has kind of broken us out of our shell. It's made us a little more creative, motivated us to do some things that we wouldn't necessarily do, or just kind of fall into our regular routines. Like, instead of playing something new on a video game, we would be just, sitting there still playing Rust every day, or whatever the case may be. But I feel like it's broken us away from a routine and gotten us motivated to do other things. Right.
It's made me want to experience new things for not just content for the show, but to talk to you about,
Right.
Like the new game Helldivers 2 came out, and I picked that up last night. Forgot to install it, of course. So installed it while I slept and got to play it this morning, and it was taking forever to boot up. And I was like, I want to play it a little bit at least before the podcast, so I can talk about it. Hopefully it's
exactly,
good.
Yeah.
So, but I was able to get some games in. So,
but normally, what would happen is if we weren't doing the podcast, is you would have just uploaded it, and then you'd have slept in, and then you would have gotten to it some point today.
Exactly. Put my fucking 8 since I have the day off, so put my 8 hours into the game and be bored of it or whatever, and not even talk about it. So
yeah, I don't know. Sometimes you have to have like little things like a little podcast to keep the wheels turning. So,
and like I talked about from the beginning, just documenting the things we experience in our life. We can go back and listen to it and be like, oh yeah, I remember when I was really into that game, and for about a week.
Well, it's kind of funny if you think about it in that perspective. A lot of the games that we were into a year ago, we're still into, like the Project Zomboid. You still play?
It goes back and forth for me, and right now I'm on it. So
DayZ, you go back to on occasion. Especially
I'm off DayZ right now, but
next update you'll probably be back on it.
Exactly. Rust, we've always been on that.
Yep.
So
and then of course there's always new content, and then at the end of this month there's a huge update where we're getting a bunch of guns, and some of them are brand new guns. Like we're getting the M4 shotgun.
On console?
On console.
Really?
Yeah, we're getting the
that's kind of cool.
The prototype pistol.
Oh, that's cool. I've always wanted to use that.
We're getting the LMG.
The HLMG?
Is it the HLMG?
The homemade one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool.
I did get. You can actually hop onto the test branch and craft one, and I was playing around with it, and I'm like, oh, I like this.
You can craft that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's probably expensive as shit though.
I didn't even look at the expense because it's just like
because the PC players, I never see them making them, so it's got to be way too expensive to be worth it.
Sure, but I mean, it's one of those things. I would almost like craft one for raiding or base defense, that type of thing.
Right, that's fair
because it does hold like a magazine of 60.
Yep. I mean, it's literally the runner-up to the M2. So
yeah. But yeah, basically we go back to those, like greatest hits, as I'll call them, just because, we're so invested into the universe of that game. And
if you look at the games that we go back to, it's the games that are so open world that there's not a real end goal,
Sure.
So every time we pick it up, it's a whole new...
The replay value is through the roof.
Exactly.
Because you can, it's like with Rust, when you watch content creators, they do little things like, I can't go on land, or I can't mine for sulfur.
Right.
Like the only way I can get sulfur is if I raid for it or steal it from people that have it on their body when I kill them.
Yeah.
So they create like little goals within the game.
Challenges.
A challenge, if you will. Yeah. Right.
And that's why like Project Zomboid, there isn't an end goal. Like literally every time you play the game, it says this is how you died, and you just get to decide how you died. What your character is.
Are you going to talk about your last Project Zomboid?
I can, dude.
Experience.
It was pretty emotional. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
It kind of fucked me up.
So you have to give a little backstory too, I guess.
Yeah. So I've been playing Zomboid again just because the update's coming out soon and trying to get better at the game. 400 hours in, and I'm pretty shit still. But this most recent playthrough, I had a couple of mods on, just kind of quality of life stuff, cars and stuff like that. Nothing crazy. But I was surviving in a set of houses by Westside, which is usually full of zombies. So I kind of stayed away from there, stayed on the outskirts or whatever, and cleared all the zombies, all the cars out of the way in the road so I can just speed around. But I left one zombie on the road to my house, and I named him Jim because he had a cowboy hat on and a plaid shirt, and just left him alive, passing around.
Cowboy
always,
Jim.
Yeah, always said, "Hey, Jim." So I survived for quite a while. This is probably one of my longest playthroughs, which 400 hours in, and I was only like 2 weeks survived. So that's how this game works. It's difficult as fuck. But I was surviving, and I had already looted most of the police stations and nearby towns, stuff like that. Had a good amount of guns, but I wanted to hit an army surplus store because that's where you find the big guns and the big boxes of ammo.
Sure.
But the closest one was quite a ways away. So I had made an outpost in a nearby town that was away from my house at a gas station that we could stock up on gas, and there's a couple of cars that I could fix up and stuff. Because I was driving around in an Astro van, which was kind of fun. So I made it to the army surplus store, and on my way back, I kept hearing like little explosions, and I was like, "What the hell?" And I'd never survived this long in the game, so I was like, "I'm gonna look it up on my phone and see what the explosions are." And most people were just talking about how it was features that weren't implemented yet, and they would like cause distractions for zombies and cause them to cluster in certain areas, stuff like that. But it was just noises, and I was like, "Okay," but it kind of sounded like electrical explosions. Like in my mind, I was like the green boxes that you see on streets, power boxes,
Sure.
those exploding. And I was like, whatever. So I'm driving back, and I made it back to the outpost with all the guns, sniper rifles, machine guns, found an M60, and I was like, oh man, I'm gonna be able to take down a mall's worth of zombies with that thing. But I get back to the gas station, and I noticed that the pumps are off, and I was like, oh no. I mean, I know the power and the water is going to shut off at some point, but I didn't realize it was going to be this soon. And I had most of my food was fresh food in my fridge and freezers at home. I had some canned food, but not a lot. And so I was like, oh shit, I hadn't found a generator yet to power that up. And I was like, oh fuck. So I was like, I got to get back to base, like stat. So I'm hauling ass back, and I keep hearing those explosions, and I keep seeing like lights go off now when I hear the explosions. I'm like, it's definitely the power going out. That's what I'm hearing. So I'm hauling ass back to base, and I'm kind of on the last route back, and I'm like, where's the fuck's Jim? Like, did he fucking leave? I haven't seen him this whole way back, and usually I see him, at around this point. And when you're looking, the way the game works is you have a view cone. So wherever you're looking, that's where you can see. So in the car, I'm looking around through the windows trying to find Jim in like the trees and stuff, because I'm just speeding my way back. And as soon as I circle back around to the front windshield, there's Jim. And I'm just fucking going 60 miles an hour. And
now Jim's on your windshield.
Yeah, Jim's all over the ground and on my windshield. And I literally just stopped, like hit space bar, just careened to a stop, and just kind of looked at the windshield for a few minutes. I'm like, fucking A, dude. Like the only thing in this game, you make your own goals, The only thing I was like, I'm going to leave Jim alive. I just murdered Jim. So I make my way back to base. All my food's rotten because it's been a couple of days. And
do you think it was Jim's way of giving up when the power went out? Just walking in front of you?
I think I wasn't paying attention. I was too focused on the food and wasn't caring about my buddy Jim.
Folks, don't take your eyes off the road.
So that was the end of that playthrough for me.
You could kill your best friend.
Yeah, I'll say my character decided to end it there, and
oh my!
After his friend Jim got killed off, so
you killed Jim.
It's a great game. It's a great emotional game. You never know what the fuck will happen. So
yeah. Wow. Well, speaking of video games, I guess you finished your little campaign there on Project Zomboid. Yesterday, Derek and I finished Resident Evil 5. Finally.
Cool.
What
did you think of that ending?
It was interesting. There's a couple other things that we can do. There's because we got the enhanced Xbox One edition, so it's got some extra chapters and stuff that you can play through that are almost like a prequel or post-quel or whatever you want to call it. But we messed around with the versus mode and I guess you'd call it, there's like a mercenary or raid mode type thing where you just basically fight waves of mutations and stuff like that. But as far as the campaign goes, I enjoyed the campaign. I'm not necessarily a real big fan of quick time events, and there's a few of them, especially in that last boss fight with Whisker. But that last boss fight was kind of complicated in ways of just having to jam on the button for a quick time event. I'm just like, this is stupid.
Yeah, I like quick time events when they just add to it with a single button or
And there's a lot of those throughout the game. But
a combination,
like dodging at the right time and that sort of thing. But the quick time events was literally Derek was playing as Shiva, and he had to jam on X for what seemed like 2 minutes straight. Just to avoid Whisker, while I was doing something else. And I didn't care for the idea in the end boss fight where, you have to do things in an exact sequence to get to the next segment to actually fight him. But overall, I thoroughly enjoyed the game. I feel like playing it cooperatively with a friend added to that experience. I probably wouldn't rank it as high if it wasn't for the co-op experience. If I played it solo, because we were in level 6-1, and that's about the time we started having some network connection issues. I don't know if it was on my part or Derek's part, but he dropped out of the game at 6-1, and we were just almost finished with the level. But for that 15 minutes of me playing the level or whatever
with an AI.
Oh my gosh, it was just in the way the whole time. It's get out of the way. And I'm what are you doing, Derek? He's, I'm not in the game. I'm what?
That was one of the main gripes when the game came out, was that if you weren't playing co-op, good luck with the game, because the AI companion's a nightmare.
Well, and I feel like a game like this shouldn't even have a secondary character if you're playing it solo. You should just be able to play it by yourself.
Yeah.
And then, if you have a partner, then you play it with a partner, that sort of thing.
Right, because that's how most of the games are. When you start, you pick either the girl or the guy, either Leon or Claire or whatever, So it's weird that this was one of the first ones where it was two people as the main characters. So,
like I said, there's some little annoyances with the game, like being able to repeatedly and spam the B button, and screaming for your partner to come over here. Come here,
yeah.
Chris, come here. But overall, it was a good experience. I mean, I could see playing through it again, and we actually, after we finished it, we talked about, going back through it and finishing little collectibles and that sort of thing, or playing it on a higher difficulty level, because we think we just played on the normal, whatever the normal was. Mm-hmm. But like I said, there's a couple of other missions that we got to do, but unfortunately, when Derek dropped out of 6-1, it didn't unlock the second mission, because there's, like I said, 2 extra bonus missions on the game, and we didn't get one unlocked on his part because he didn't technically finish the game, because
he's missing that
one level. So,
so you got to go back and play through it again, anyways.
Yeah, at least from level 6-1 forward, I believe.
Yeah.
So I think he said he was going to try and just do 6-1 by itself and see what it did, and hopefully it unlocks everything. So,
gotcha.
But yeah, no, it was a good experience. I plan on doing some extra content for the podcast directly with that game since I finished it, at least the main campaign. But I guess that's the replayability of that game. Is it's you look at the achievements on it. There's almost 1,500 gamer score you can accumulate with it, and by doing just the campaign, I think I was at 470. So it's there's so much more to do.
Yeah, that's true.
So. But no, overall, a really good experience. I recommend it for anybody that hasn't played Resident Evil 5 yet. It's definitely worth a go, and I think that we're going to move on to Resident Evil 6 here shortly, which...
You've already played through once or twice?
Resident Evil 6?
Yeah.
I haven't played it at all. It's a new experience. You're thinking of Revelations.
Revelations. Okay,
yeah.
Gotcha.
I've played through Revelations.
They have the same vibe with that leaky purple...
Okay.
So.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we're kind of apprehensive about going into this one because just the way people talked about it in comparison to 5, there's a lot of disappointment. But our friend Mike over at our Retrolection, we were messaging back and forth, and he goes, it gets kind of a bad rap, but I don't know, I really like it.
Yeah, I remember replaying the survival mode with my buddy quite a bit.
In 6?
Yeah, because at the very beginning of 6, it's got a prequel kind of scene where it's right at the fall of Raccoon City, or it might be in Tokyo, but you're in the middle of the city, and there's just tons of the classic kind of zombies, not the weird ones that you're kind of used to,
Mm-hmm.
So one of the survival levels is that city. So you're just fighting the classic zombies, and it's got this badass soundtrack, and it's got the rain, and it's Tokyo. I don't know. It's really cool. It's got a good vibe to the game. So.
Have you had an opportunity to fire up Revelations that this guy gave you?
No, I have not.
Okay.
I've been playing some other
I think
stuff.
You'd like the raid mode in that, then if you like the survival mode in 6, because they're very similar.
I've always been a survival fan ever since Call of Duty Zombies. So
yeah, it's funny. I've been sleeving my Xbox 360 collection in those Terrafold things,
Mm-hmm.
so I can create more space in the game room / podcast studio. But looking at Call of Duty Black Ops 3 on the 360 and how it literally had the multiplayer zombie mode only on it, or multiplayer and zombies only.
Yep.
No campaign. It's like, why would you cut the campaign out? Why wouldn't you do it the other way?
Yep. It's
I mean,
weird.
you'd think that, it's like, okay, we'll put the campaign.
I think it was because the campaign was very cinematic and they had used stuff from the new gen.
And they could, maybe
That couldn't backwards compatible. Yeah. Whereas the multiplayer is just, they can just use the old graphics for that shit.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter.
People didn't give a fuck.
You're gonna get the same
I
experience.
just want to respawn. Shoot to my gun.
Yeah, I don't know. See, it's, and then I know I'm in the minority when it comes to Call of Duty games, but I play them for their campaigns
Right.
rather than the multiplayer.
I enjoyed the first few, but at some point I just kind of gave up on them.
Sure.
I think it was around like the World War II part. I don't think I finished that one. So.
Yeah, well, that's one I just recently finished. So
Right.
I'm kind of proud of myself. I mean, I've finished a few games already this year. I finished World War II. I finished Resident Evil 5. I've beat Revelations. I feel like there's one other game that I've beaten, and we're only in February, and that's pretty
good.
pretty big for me to actually finish like campaigns of games. Oh, was it Condemned, or did I finish that late last year?
I think you finished that late. It's been a while since we talked about that.
Okay. Yeah, see, I need to get on Condemned too. I mean, there's so many games that are on my hit list that I want to play.
Yeah, I've been wanting to play Manhunt on that same kind of vibe.
Right. Yeah, I've been kind of wanting to play that again too, but because I've only played a little bit of it.
And I talked about maybe wanting to play the Max Paynes because I'd never played 2 or 3 before. I realized I have all 3 on Steam.
Oh, okay.
The problem is
Your Steam Deck doesn't really.
Yeah, because you need like a Rockstar launcher or something. It's just not. I could probably find a workaround, but right now they don't work. So, but I forgot I found them on sale for like $6 or something. I was like, oh yeah, and then I tried playing them. I'm like, God damn it.
So I think at that point maybe that'll serve as motivation for you to just get a gaming PC at some point.
Especially Helldivers 2, it runs fine on my Steam Deck, but if I could get a thing to make it look gorgeous as well, oh man, dude, this game's gonna be cool as hell.
Okay.
So, speaking of games that you've finished, I've almost finished one. It's kind of an indie game. You ever heard of like Limbo or Inside?
Sure.
So, I had never played Inside before. I bought it on my my Switch when it was on sale for like $1 or something like that. I was like, oh, it's the sequel, quote unquote, to Limbo. So,
yeah.
So I've been playing through that. I've almost finished that, and that's a it's a fun little game. It's fucked up, but it's pretty cool.
Okay. Yeah, the only other thing I've really been playing, just kind of waiting around. We're really close within the last like 30, 45 minutes of finishing It Takes Two with me and my friend Daniel, and it's hard to get on the same schedule to finish it out. And then when we do get on the same schedule, it's like the last time we played games together, which would have been, I guess this past weekend. Which I got a Rust story. If you guys want to hear a Rust story,
Oh Lord, all right.
but he was mainly focused on playing Rust because they were trying to track down a friend of a friend who befriended that, or turned his back and incited him, and did some nasty things like DDoS him and that sort of thing.
Oh,
so
jeez.
every time we find him on a Rust server, we find his
with him,
base and
yeah.
torture him. So based on that, he was focused on playing Rust this weekend, which is kind of unusual, but it's like, hey, whatever. So I hopped on with them for a little bit because they know that I'm relentless. You set me to a task and I'll just do it until it's done.
Yeah.
And we ended up finding this other clan that was literally like roof camping a spawn point, just killing nakeds as they spawned in. So we focused on them, and we were able to steal like materials like as they're building their third base.
Jesus.
Yeah. So, but the wipe started, or for me it started, a few days after them or a day after them. They didn't have a whole lot of blueprints, the group that I'm playing with. And I happened to find a raid that had been done where they blew into a compound and then they had blown into the side of the base and then sealed it up. But the raid base was still there, and the auto turrets for the raid base were still out there, but they were turned off. So I picked them out, and sure enough, there was, a stack of pistol ammo and a python in each of them. Went into the compound and found another python and an auto turret with another stack and a half of pistol ammo. So I'm providing pythons ammunition for the guys.
Right.
Because I'm just picking them out, and then I go run back, and I'm like, I'm going to keep an eye on this base. So, we go out to like oil rig and stuff and do some other monuments, and the guys do some blueprinting, and then we, get in a fight with the group in the water that's spawn killing from their roof.
Classic.
And I decided to go over to the raided base, and the part where they had blown into, I guess it had started to decay and fall apart. And I go in there, and sure enough, I guess where they had went in was directly into their core where their bunkers were.
Mm-hmm.
And there wasn't anything really in there that you could see right away. And then you keep going around into this like corridor and up and around through the bunker. And then I'm assuming that the raiders did not get to the entryway. The entryway is pretty large. It kind of was like a wraparound. And the first thing I open up is a locker, and in the locker is an M2 and an L9 and as much ammunition as you'd want, a full Metal Gear set. And I'm like, holy crap. And I kind of turn, and there's just boxes everywhere. I'm like, so I do my normal thing I do. I panic, and it was me and wasn't Daniel, it was his friend. And so I get on like, you got to get over to me right now. He goes, what's going on? I'm like, just do it. And sure enough, there's a box that's full of cooked sulfur. There's, a bunch of weapons scattered about, box of charcoal, so you're able to easily turn all that sulfur into gunpowder. I think we came out that first run with like 3 AKs.
Jeez.
Full Metal Gear sets, because Daniel finally got back on, and he came over, and then we were able to get the loot all the way back just fine. So we go back, because there's still more stuff, and the guys had decided that they feel like going in this one garage door would be a good idea. And it turned out to be good, because it had their box of components, box of tier 2 guns, you name it, it was in there, besides like gunpowder and scrap, but everything else was in there. And, we're trying to figure out where the TC was, and I think we finally figured out where it was, just not realizing initially that place that had decayed that we went in through, that was the core. Well, in the core, there were 3 vending machines. And sure enough, they were doing the vending machine trick where there's a vending machine behind the vending machine, and you could just barely see it through the crack above it. Pixel gap or whatever. And quite literally, the raiders missed it, because there was one vending machine that had a box in front of it.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, Daniel looks, and there's a row of gunpowder in it.
No kidding.
So these raiders must have gotten like amazing loot out of this base, or they were just the worst raiders ever, because we came out of there with so much stuff without having to raiding a garage door, really.
Well, and something, I mean, who knows what had happened, with the raiders. You never know unless you watch it happen. But what I've realized is that at least a lot of these PC streamers is that when they have enough explosives or enough people in their group, they'll just go blow into core, get what they can that they want, and then just go blow into the next base. They'll just keep next one. Yeah,
they don't.
They don't pick around for the stuff, which is good for these people, because they hid their stuff in the right spot, which is not in core.
Right. And literally, if those guys would have gotten back on and patched their base up, they'd have been fine. They would have just lost their main core loot, whatever it may have been. My assumption is it was probably like a vending machine full of rockets, because
there was probably the made stuff, the scrap, and then the high qual.
Yeah, because they did not get the actual sulfur or the gunpowder. Right. We got that. And that's
probably why they left. They probably got a box full of rockets, and they're like, cool, let's move to the next base.
Yep. We got boom for the next raid.
Yep.
So, but no, that was probably one of my craziest finds in a previously raided or decaying base.
That's cool.
I mean, it was just, it literally it was like end game loot. It's like, okay, yeah, you got what you wanted.
Yep.
I don't know. In a way, it kind of ruins the game when you find things like that.
Right. That's why, I've seen a lot of people, they just give it away, Let somebody else have their heyday with it, especially people that, have never used it or whatever.
Sure.
Here, have an M2. Enjoy.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, it was kind of funny, because we're running back, and that was the first thing I said to the guys, like, does somebody want to take this M2? And they're like, no, you got it, man, because they know I never use it.
Yeah. Dang it.
So,
that's fun.
Anywho, yeah, that was kind of a fun find in Rust. So that was Saturday, but I was hoping to play some It Takes Two, but we did that instead. So I'm almost finished with It Takes Two. I'd like to finish that one out, get that one off, check that one off, because we've been working on that game on and off for almost a year.
Gotcha.
And that game, maybe that's why that game feels so long-winded, is because we've made it long-winded.
Yeah, it's also true.
I don't know.
I don't know. I've been wanting to dive deeper into games, but I've just been picking up Hell Let Loose just for a few minutes because I've been dealing with my new kitty that I've been taking care of. So,
Hell Let Loose. That was another game I played a little bit this weekend, and I had kind of a fun interaction about this. I've already told you, but I'll let our audience know. It was a unique experience because I was in squads where people were communicating with each other.
That's good.
And I was in a squad with clearly two older gentlemen that were friends outside of Xbox, or at least Hell Let Loose. Like, they had played other games together. You could tell the way they were talking to each other. But essentially, me and one of our squad mates was holding a point, and while these two older gentlemen were at, like, the main point fortifying it. And they were, going back and forth the whole time, communicating, what they need and what goes where and that sort of thing. And just one of the funniest comments I heard from one of them. And, you can clearly tell this is an older gentleman. And he's like, okay, I can't remember the other guy's name. I'll just call him Luke. Okay, Luke, I got to hop off for about 15 minutes. I got to go help Susie with the laundry. It's just like... right in the middle of a match, after they get the whole area fortified, he hops off to go do laundry.
Yeah, just a couple of old friends. Just fucking...
It was a very it was amusing, but it was also wholesome. It was just like, wow, it's like it feels good that there's still people out there that play online video gaming that are not 100% toxic.
Yeah, they're just there for a good time.
Yeah, exactly. They're a good person through and through. Whereas, some of the younger generation, or even my generation, it's like sometimes these games bring out the worst in us.
100%. But that's something I found with Hell Let Loose, is it is a game that you can do that, because it's a game you can just kind of drop in, drop out, if as you will.
I know, because I was at day before yesterday. Yeah, it was Tuesday. I hopped in a game with you, and you were gone before I even loaded
I
in.
saw you on my squad for a while, but that was the last game I was playing before I left town. So I was like, oh well,
see ya, bud.
See ya.
But not a really whole lot of else going on, I guess.
Nope.
The past week or so. I mean, I've been just doing stuff to get ready. I did. I guess I do have some news. I'll be going to the Midwest Gaming Classic. That was
Mr. Flip Flop. Going now, huh?
This was originally not going to happen, but my normal booth partner had decided not to go because he didn't really have enough to justify vendoring, and it's not necessarily cheap to vendor.
No.
At the Midwest Gaming Classic, and I did find that part of our expense is because we haven't been bringing our own tables. They charge like $40 a table
for just a folding table.
And their tables suck because
you're allowed to bring your own tables.
Yeah, I guess so. Because I usually don't set everything up. I let my friend do it.
You just kind of leech off them.
And then then it's just like he tells me how much it is, and then I cut it in half and I send him half the money.
Fair.
But another friend contacted me and said, hey, I want to go vendor at MGC. Are you interested? And I'm like, well, sure, I'll do it with you, And then he sent me the paperwork, a copy of it. And I'm like, wait, we don't have to rent tables. Their tables suck because they're real narrow. They're long tables, but they're narrow, so you can't get as much on there. Well, heck, I've got 6 folding tables in my garage from when I set up for when we did vendoring out at flea markets and stuff. And, I'm like, I can bring tables, and they charged $5 a chair. And it's like, well, no wonder it was $700 for us to rent a space, because we would get the most desirable spot, and then we'd have 6 tables from them. And it's like, oh, well, we can cut down the cost and just bring our own.
Right. Fucking hell, dude.
So I'm going to vendor with my friend who's, I've vendored with before. It's just been a while, but he's decided, I guess, to unload his whole collection. He was one of those guys that collected a complete in box North American set of Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64. So he's probably got a lot of good stuff to sell.
Yeah, no kidding.
And then I've just got my normal stuff, so I'll be getting ready for that. That's going to be a big time crunch consuming thing for me. I've got a lot of stuff ready already, but I'm also starting my Terrafold project, which I've made a lot of headway on.
You have indeed.
I think I've converted about 400 discs into the slim sleeves.
And I'm finding on the shelf you can actually kind of tell them the games apart, even though they're
Well, eventually they'll be in that.
I know, but that's what one of my worries was, that it's like, oh, you won't be able to tell them apart, but like from this angle, I mean,
it's really not that bad.
Yeah, you can tell by colors and stuff.
I don't know. There's something about them that I feel like I like the feel and I like the look of them better than the green cases. Like, I feel like that they could have easily released this just like this.
As a sleeve or something?
Yeah. Yep. I don't know.
I mean, I know PlayStation did something kind of like that.
There's more focus on the artwork. I feel like the green case takes away from the artwork.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah. Too much plastic.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a couple of copies of like God of War and stuff. I'm sure there were like inserts and systems and stuff like that, like free games that came with the system. But they're like cool little cardboard inserts. And
sure.
It's just a little thing, sleeve for the game.
Yeah.
So,
that's another thing I was noticing, because I noticed it with one of the games that I re-sleeved. Certain on these cases, this little piece here, I don't know what you call
it,
the button where you pop the disc onto. Some of these are very hard and stiff, and they're not every case is manufactured the same. There's so many different Xbox cases. That little button thing will destroy discs over time.
Oh, and you know what's even worse than a stiff button?
I've got cracks on a couple of discs around there, or chips. And it's just like, and sure enough, when you take it off of the button, it's the buttons that are really hard and stiff. So like over time, these cases will actually destroy your discs.
That's what happened to my copy of Modern Warfare 2.
Because it was in and out of the case all the time.
It had a chipped inner ring. It still worked, but I didn't want to play it because it has a
what
chipped
point
inner
does
ring.
it just explode in the game system and destroy your system?
No, one thing I hate more than a stiff, which I'm sure you're right that it does do damage to discs and stuff, is when the button's so freaking shallow that the disc just falls off in the case when you put it on the shelf. It's like, who made this?
Yeah.
Who's making buttons out here, man?
I don't know. But yeah, that's been an ongoing project, and I've been watching Combat while I do it, which is an old 60s World War II TV show, which I love. I found something out kind of interesting about my DVD set where the orders are not in chronological order. So I don't know why they didn't do that, but sure enough.
Yeah, it's weird.
It doesn't really matter because the TV show is just like episode by episode. It's not like a continuing story. But I don't know. It's like I mentioned to you earlier, I was watching an episode when Nick came in because I was working on my disc conversion to the Terrafold sleeves, and just got past a scene where, they're in France and one of their men got shot, the Americans, and they come into this building and they're like, "We need a doctor." And they're like holding their hands up like, "I don't know, we don't understand. We're French, And he's like, "We need a doctor." It's like, and then they're like, "Oh, yeah." It's like, oh my God, really? It's like just changing your accent is going
the years before subtitles
is going to change this. It's like, it's easy to make fun of the show, but if you just watch it for what it was and try to put yourself in that mindset of a kid in the 60s, it's a pretty enjoyable show.
Yeah.
So, but anything else you want to add to our, I guess you call it our 1-year anniversary show?
Not really. More to come, as usual.
Yeah.
We're going to work on that video thing once I get this whole cat thing under wraps, and I'm kind of more on a regular schedule instead of driving around all the time.
Well, yeah. I mean, that once that gets locked down, and then maybe getting us a good PC.
Mm-hmm. That's true. I'm going to start looking for a game PC.
I've been kind of looking, too. It's just, at some point, we're going to have to lock that down. That way we can do more with the podcast and then do some like streaming and like you want to do, and maybe some video shorts. I've got some ideas. It's just a matter of getting to that point.
Right. We'll get there though.
Yeah, we got the audio down.
A whole year of it.
A whole year of it, yeah. So we appreciate everybody for joining us, and look forward to year 2 with Open by Accident. And
If you guys have any ideas or if you want us requests of things you'd like to hear, listen to, you know where to find us.
Please. Email us.
Yeah. openbyaccident@gmail.com.
I thought he was going to finish. He didn't.
Well, they know where to find us at this point. It's been a year, you know, and I put it in the description. So
yeah, true.
We're also on Instagram. Got some pictures on some of our episodes up there. So
yeah, which I'll try to add some more here sometime in the near future.
You can show them your whole Terrafold collection.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it might be triggering for some people.
Oh, okay.
You know, there are those people that are get triggered by things not in their original cases. But
those are also people with the stiff buttons that are breaking their discs.
It's my collection, and it ain't going nowhere. I'm not getting rid of the cases. I'm just putting the cases in storage out of the way. So I can always put it back.
People will be butthurt over the smallest things. Fuck them. Okay?
Yep. That's what makes me happy.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, guys.
You guys have a good one.